going to start the calcium carbonate stability test, or the marble test. And I have gotten a lot of equipment ready, so you can read about the purpose and the instruments. Samples: we want 2 500 ml glass bottles filled to the top. Place the bottles in a basin of tap water, collect at the same time to maintain the tap water temperature. Right now I have plastic bottles, and they are equilibrating to room temperature right now. And we need calcium carbonate powder. There we go, calcium carbonate powder. The BOD bottle right here. And we need a sample pump set up with 1.4 pore size for solids. Titration apparatus for alkalinity, titration apparatus for hardness, pH meter for the pH and temperature, and flasks and stir bars. So I have the pumps ready. I have my titration set up for hardness, and I have the directions for hardness. You have to skip over total hardness right here and go right to the calcium hardness procedure, and we will do those titrations as directed. You're also going to do the alkalinity. I need to make up some sulfuric acid down to 0.05 N, and I have the titration set up, and I have the pH meter set up next to the titrator here, because we are going to be doing pH with the meter, because it needs to be very, very specific. And so I have the alkalinity directions here, and how to do that. We have our pH meter, and I am going to be calibrating that first thing, and you've seen this before, so I will do that before I move on. I have finished my calibration, and my slope looks very good. I'm going to take it out of the 10 standard. Do a quick rinse. Let it dry. I'm going to put in a control standard of 6, and we'll see if my calibration is good. Hit measure. I should get a result of about 6. There we go, it's ready. I would say our pH meter is doing really well. And while we're waiting, I also made up some 0.05 N sulfuric acid for our alkalinity. And I started getting my glassware labeled for the different things we are going to be doing. Now I'm going to get ready to treat some water. I have my 2 500 ml samples, original and calcium carbonate treated. I'm going to add a stir bar to a BOD bottle, and then partially fill it with the calcium carbonate treated sample bottle. And then I'm going to add 1 gram of the calcium carbonate. Take a look, it's a pretty interesting texture. And then we're going to fill it all the way to the top with the water, and we're going to mix and let it settle. And then we're going to test all of our original samples for all of these things. So, I have my water here, calcium carbonate treated water. Fill it. See if I can do that with one hand. No, I can't, so I'll put the camera down. Then I'm going to add the calcium carbonate. This is going to be an excess amount of calcium carbonate. Then I'm going to fill the bottle all the way. So I'll put my camera down here. So I have filled my sample bottle here with water, and I went to just a little bit below the neck here. We do not want any air in there, and that seems to be about the right amount where I can put the cap in and it'll be airtight. Next, we are going to mix the sample for 5 minutes. There we go. Then, while I'm waiting, I'll take the original sample and do all of this testing. So I decided to work on my pH and my alkalinity first. I poured off some of my pH sample from my original test water to a beaker, and I'm going to test its pH. Okay, there it goes. So first thing I'm going to do is test our original sample for pH, and I have poured some off into a beaker. I have changed the settings in here back to an auto read because it's very confusing with the continuous read. And I'm also going to test the temperature with this thermometer. So I'm going to wait for that to stabilize, and I will write down our temperature whenever that is stable. 6.875, and our thermometer is at not quite there. Looks like it's on the warm side. So next I'm going to work on the alkalinity. I'm going to change our pH meter back to continuous. Set up, select, 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 and just arrow down. Okay, back to continuous. And then I can go back to measure. Alright, let's look at the directions for alkalinity. I have poured off 50 mils of our original sample. And let's go through the directions here. And I have filled the burette with the 0.05N sulfuric acid. Measure 50 mils of sample in a graduated cylinder and put it in a beaker. Right. Let's take this out. And rinse it. Let's put a probe down farther. All right. Prepared a working solution. I have already done that. Add to the burette. I've already done that. Let's note where we're at. We're at 0. So I will write that down. Start 0. Alright. So what we do is we note our volume on our burette, which we did. Titrate sample to pH of 6.5 and again to 6.0. And you note the amount of titrant used. for each of those, and then titrate to pH of 4 and note the volume in the burette. So I'll write that down, 6.5, 6.5, 4.0, and let's see, 6.0. 6.0. Okay, we'll note the MMs in there. Alright, so right now we're at a pH of 7.127, and we're on continuous, and we need to add drop by drop the sulfuric acid until... Alright, I'm going to start doing a titration. Alright, turn it. Make sure it gets mixed pretty well. And go at this pretty slowly here. I'm going to add a little bit more. Try to do a drop if I can. Go down to a 6.6. They're down to 6.5, and they're going. Okay, let's note how much we have in our burette. Looks like a 0.8. Okay, we're going to go down to a 6.0. It has been 5 minutes and it's well mixed, so we are going to turn off the stirrer and let it settle. Allow sample to settle for 10 minutes. I'm back at the titration. I'm at 6.3. You need to add a little bit more of that dilute sulfuric acid. Back to stabilizing. Now we're looking for a pH of 6.0. It looks like it's about ready. Let's add a little bit more. Looks like it needs a little bit more. It's at the ready. Drop. Looks like we made it. There you go. Alright, let's see what we're at. Let's see. Looks like a 16. 1.6 milliliters. Let me write that down. Alright, now let's go down to a pH of, that's where we're at. We're going to go down to a pH of 4. And we'll do that. Okay, we are very ready. Let's take a look at our burette. Where are we at? Let's see. I'll take a look. I'm going to put down a 4.0 milliliters for 6.0. Now I'm going to take it down to a pH of 4. So I'm going to add a little more sulfuric acid and wait for it to be ready at about 4. Okay, we're at pH of 4. And there's our burette. Looks like it's about 5. 5.0 ml. Alright. So I'm going to go change our pH setup. Change it back to auto read. Measure. Now it's ready for our next sample. I'll take our pH probe out of our sample, rinse it off, and then on to our next step. Our treated water has settled. And now we're going to pour it through the filter flask using one of these filters. Alright, so I'm going to put my filter on here. Alright. Got everything situated here. Turn on my vacuum. There's our test sample. Still have a bit of calcium carbonate in there. But our sample is nice and clear. We're going to first do our pH and our alkalinity and our temperature. So I took my pH probe out of the storage solution, added some of the treated sample to a beaker, and I want to take a reading of this. See what our pH is of the treated sample. While I'm at it, I'm going to use my thermometer, take its temperature. It looks like our temperature is about 21. I'll write that down. 21.1 degrees. Our pH 6.501. 6.501. Alright, next I'm going to start the alkalinity. Get rid of this. And I need to find a beaker and change this back to continuous. Okay. Alright. So I have 50 ml of my treated water. Add it to my beaker. Add my pH probe. Start stirring. Then I'm going to add the same sulfuric acid drop by drop until I get to about a pH of 6.0. So I need to take a reading of wherever you're at. It's like 5.3. So I'll start 5.3 ml. And then we need ending for a pH of 6.5, 6.0, and a 4.0. Right now it's still stabilizing at this pH, but I am going to add a little bit of sulfuric acid to get it down to 6.5 or 6.0. Let's see where we're at. 58, 5.8 mils. 5.8 mils. Now I'm going to take it down to a pH of 6.0. Okay, we're down to 6.0. Let's take a look. Maybe 6.8 mils. And I'll write it down. 6.8. Alright. Now I'm going to take it down to a pH of 4. Alright, we are at about 7.8 for our pH is 4. So, write that out. 7.8. Next we're going to do the hardness for both of our test samples. Now I'm getting ready to do the hardness. We're going to do calcium hardness procedure. Fill the burette with EDTA titrant, which I did. And there's our titrant, 0.01. And if the sample is expected to be hard, dilute it down. We're expecting to be less than 300, so we're going to use a sample volume of 50. And we're going to put 50 of the test sample or above dilutions in a 250 milliliter flask. And we're going to make a color comparison blank by adding 50 ml of DI water to another flask. Actually, I'm using 125 milliliter flask. Here's my DI water comparison. Here's my original hardness. And here is my treated. Next we are going to add 2 ml of 1N-NaOH to each flask so we can get it to a high pH. And I will check it with some pH paper. And then I'm going to add 0.2 grams of Urochrome Blue Black R indicator. And you see that's here, and it has its own measuring spoon right here. So I added my 1N-NaOH, 2 ml of it. Now I'm going to add some of this indicator. See if I can fill. There we go. a little bit hard to do it with one hand, so okay, so these are my samples. I remade the comparison twice and it is still blue. So we're going to start with the color comparison blank, add EDTA titrant until the pink turns blue. And it already is blue. So you use 0 to 3 drops of titrant to do this. Note the level in the barrette. Okay, let's see where we're at. 9.6. I will write that down. I'll work on the test 9.6 ml. Alright. Then, to the test sample, add the EDTA titrant until you get to a blue color. Along the way, you may get a pink or purple, and then add more EDTA and mix. Pause and add more because it kind of goes back and forth. So, I'll add a stir bar. Our original sample is now turned blue. Let's take a look how much we used. We're at like 14.1. So 14.1 ml. Alright. Next I'm going to do my treated and do it the exact same way. Let's put our start for our hardness. Or treat it as 14.1. Coming along. Now we want to go drop by drop. Let's just add one more drop just to make sure. Turn a little bit purple again. Alright. Let's see where we are at. 17.8. I'll write that down. 17.8. Okay, I'm taking a look at my data. I did have to do a little bit more titration for the hardness because they were sneaky and they turned purple again. I had to add a little more EDTA to make it turn blue again. And same with both of them. And then I wrote down all of my results here. How much sulfuric acid we needed to add for the alkalinity and how much the EDTA solution we had to use to get to that blue color.